So this happened last fall when I drove up to the Blood Mountain Trailhead in Georgia, October 17th at 5:32 p.m. And I swear to God I haven't been the same since. Because something out there laughed at me. Not around me, not near me, but with my own voice, wet and broken, echoing back from the trees. And every clock since then has frozen at 5:32, and I think the trail came home with me. I think it's inside me now. And if you're hearing this, if you're reading this, then it's already inside you too. You're listening to ASMR 404Found. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. So this happened last fall when I drove up to the Appalachian Trailhead at Blood Mountain in Georgia. It was October 14th, 2022, at exactly 5:32 p.m. I remember the time because I checked my phone before I locked the car and slung my back over my shoulder. The air had that chilly bite that only comes with the shift into deep autumn, crisp enough that every breath felt like I was inhaling tiny shards of glass, and the sky was that strange golden bruise of a sunset, fading faster than I expected. You know how it is when you think you've got more daylight left, but the shadows keep stretching like they're hungry, pulling themselves long across the gravel lot where only 3 other cars sat like forgotten bones, silent and waiting. I wasn't planning anything crazy that evening. No multi-day trek. Just a short hike up from the trailhead to catch the overlook, clear my head after a rough week. Nothing complicated. But the minute I stepped onto that dirt path with the trail marker nailed into the tree, I felt it, like the woods had swallowed me faster than usual, like the air was heavier inside the tree line. And I told myself it was nothing, just the contrast between open lot and shaded forest. But man, the silence was wrong. No bird song, no crunch of squirrels darting, no low hum of bugs. Just my boots hitting the leaf litter in a rhythm that sounded louder than it should have, echoing back to me like I wasn't alone, like something else was keeping pace just outside my line of sight. The first 20 minutes felt ordinary enough. The trail climbing in that steady incline that Blood Mountain is known for. Roots, like gnarled knuckles curling across the path, and the air damp with that earthy musk of rotting leaves. It should have been peaceful, but my nerves kept buzzing like I'd had 3 cups of coffee. My ears straining for sound, my eyes flicking back every couple minutes, swearing I'd catch someone following. But nothing, just trees stacked thick and shadows twitching when the wind pushed them. And still, I couldn't shake it. That prickle on the back of my neck that felt like fingers almost, brushing but not quite touching, pulling back every time I spun around too fast. At around 6, the sun was sinking low enough that the sky through the branches looked bruised purple. I checked my phone again and thought about turning back. The overlook wasn't far, but the light was slipping, and I knew better than to be caught descending in pitch dark. Still something kept me moving forward, like the trail itself had a hold on my legs, whispering that just one more bend would open into the clearing. And when I finally broke through the tree line, the view was insane. Endless ridges folding into each other, valleys drowned in mist that looked more like smoke. The kind of scene that makes you quiet without even realizing. But the weirdest thing, the overlook was empty. No chatter from other hikers, no distant laughter, no sound at all, just the cold wind threading through the branches, like a voice I couldn't quite translate. I sat on the flat rock for maybe 10 minutes, pulling my jacket tighter, trying to shake the unease. And that's when I noticed something scratched into the stone beneath me. Not initials, not names, but deep grooves cut over and over like someone had dragged a blade again and again. The marks weren't letters, but they almost looked like a pattern. Jagged lines intersecting, like antlers or branches or something worse. And the more I traced it with my eyes, the more I felt like it was shifting, like the lines were moving when I blinked. And I laughed it off, told myself it was just the flicker of my headlamp beam bouncing off the uneven surface. But my laugh sounded wrong, too loud, like it didn't belong here. And that's when I heard it. A second laugh, soft, delayed, echoing back from the trees. I froze, every hair on my arms standing up, scanning the tree line, expecting to see someone step out. Another hiker messing with me, maybe. But nothing moved. No footsteps, no crunch of leaves. Just silence until I whispered hello, my voice cracking, and something whispered it back. Same tone, same crack, but coming from deeper in the woods. Not echo, but reply, deliberate and patient. I don't remember standing up, but I did. Back slung quick over my shoulders, my boots already shifting toward the trail down. The overlook behind me suddenly feeling like a stage where I'd been stupid enough to sit center, spotlighted by the dying light. And as I started down the path, the sound came again, that soft laugh, closer this time, layered with something wet in it, like someone choking on their own breath. And I forced myself not to run, just kept my pace steady, even though my heart was hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. I didn't look back, I just kept going, every step like pulling through water, my brain screaming at me to move faster. But some animal part of me knew running would make it worse. Running would make it chase. Halfway down, the light was almost gone, and I flicked on my headlamp, the beam slicing through the dark, catching branches, catching bark, and then catching something else. For just a second, the glint of eyes low to the ground, too low for a person, too wide apart for a deer, shining back at me before vanishing as quick as I lifted my hand. And I swear to God, in that half second, the shape that crouched there was smiling, teeth pale against the black. I forced myself forward, muttering out loud that it was just a trick of the beam, just my nerves. But the motor didn't help because the woods weren't silent anymore. They were alive now with that sound, soft laughter, but multiplied like it was coming from all sides. Different voices, higher, lower, whispering and choking, pressing in. So close, I thought I'd feel breath on my neck. And that's when I started running. Rules be damned. Stumbling over roots, snapping branches, not caring how much noise I made, just aiming for that faint rectangle of parking lot light I knew had to be waiting at the end. By the time I broke out of the tree line, my chest was on fire, my lungs burning, but I didn't stop, not until I reached my car, fumbling the keys, slamming the door shut. And when I finally dared to look back at the trailhead, I saw nothing, just trees standing quiet and still, like they hadn't moved in centuries, like nothing had ever come out of them. But the sound was still in my head, that laugh, wet and broken, like it had followed me out and was waiting for me to come back. And here's the part that gets me. That's been eating at me since that night when I started the car. The dashboard clock glowed 5:32 p.m. Same time I'd arrived. Like the hour I'd just lived through had been swallowed whole, erased. And I don't know how to explain that, I really don't. I didn't drive straight home that night. I couldn't. I pulled out of the Blood Mountain lot, like I was being chased, hands locked so tight on the wheel that my knuckles went white, headlights cutting through the winding mountain road, and every curve felt like it was bending wrong, like the asphalt itself wanted me to slide off the side into the dark valley below. But the worst part wasn't the road. It was the sound in my car, faint at first, like a buzzing in my ears. But when I killed the radio just to be sure, it was still there. That laugh, soft, broken, drifting through the vents like it had hitched a ride inside the air itself. I rolled the windows down, even though the night was freezing, hoping the wind would swallow it. But the laugh clung, echoing low against the hum of the tires, and I kept telling myself I was just shaken, adrenaline messing with me. But then the dashboard clock caught my eye again, still glowing 5:32 p.m., locked there like the numbers were painted instead of digital. And my phone, when I checked, showed the same thing. Battery at 89%, frozen in time no matter how many times I rebooted it. And I swear the screen felt warm in my hand, like it had been sitting on a charger for hours. By the time I hit the first gas station on 19, I pulled over, slammed the car door behind me, and just stood under the buzzing fluorescent lights, trying to breathe, trying to get my bearings. The place was nearly empty. Just one old guy inside the store behind the counter. And when I walked in, my boots squeaking against the sticky tile, he didn't even look up at first, just kept scratching something on a receipt pad with a dull pencil, and I had to clear my throat twice before he turned his head slow, eyes glassy like he hadn't blinked in too long. And the first thing he said wasn't hello. It was, "You came from the trail, didn't you?" My chest tightened. I nodded, maybe too quick, and he stared at me like he was measuring the weight of what I'd seen. Then his mouth twitched like he wanted to say more, but stopped himself. Instead, he slid a small plastic lighter across the counter toward me, the kind you'd pick up for $1, and muttered, "Keep that close." Then went right back to his receipt like our whole exchange never happened. And I didn't argue. I just bought a bottle of water, kept the lighter in my pocket like it was a talisman, and left with that buzzing in my ears louder than before. I should have driven straight back to Atlanta, straight into the safe mess of city noise. But some twisted part of me couldn't. My brain kept replaying the overlook, the scratches in the rock, the laughter that wasn't mine. And I needed to prove to myself it was just nerves, just a bad night. So I made the stupid decision to go back the next evening, October 15th. Same trailhead, only this time I showed up earlier, around 3:45 p.m. Sun still high, parking lot more crowded, at least 8 cars lined up. Hikers moving in and out with dogs, kids, couples, normal people living normal lives. And I told myself, "See, nothing wrong here. You just psyched yourself out." But deep down, I already knew it wasn't true. The hike up felt lighter with more traffic on the trail. I passed 2 groups coming down, sweaty and smiling. One woman even warning me about a copperhead they'd spotted near a rock face. Normal hiker chatter. But the silence still pressed in between those moments. The woods still felt heavy, and when I reached the overlook again, there were 3 other people there already. College age maybe, laughing, passing a flask. One guy strumming a beat-up guitar, and I swear to you, it was almost worse with them there. Because when I sat down on the far end of the rock and looked at the scratched markings again, I could see them clear as day. Same jagged pattern like antlers or branches, only deeper than before, freshly carved into the stone, edges sharp enough to catch light. And the others didn't notice, didn't care. They just kept laughing. But every time their laughter rose, it sounded off, like it was echoing wrong, like it was being pulled through a tunnel, stretched and slowed, until it almost matched the wet, broken laugh from the night before. I left before the sun dipped, nerves buzzing too hot, and I thought I'd made it out clean. But halfway down, I noticed the trail markers were wrong. Nailed boards that should have been white blazes looked smeared, like the paint had melted in the heat, dripping down the bark in long streaks that almost formed letters, almost. And I picked up my pace, boots slipping against loose gravel. And that's when I saw it, a man standing off trail, maybe 20 feet in, tall, shoulders hunched, head bent at an angle too sharp, like his neck was broken. but he was still upright, and in his hand, dangling low, was something that caught the dying light. Metal, sharp, maybe a knife, maybe something worse. And before I could call out, he bent down, slow and deliberate, dragging the blade into the dirt, carving those same jagged lines like the ones at the overlook. I didn't wait to see more. I ran. I didn't care if others heard me, didn't care if I twisted an ankle. I just tore down the path until the trees thinned and the lot opened. And when I looked back, heart rattling in my throat, there was no one behind me, no figure, no sound, just quiet woods holding secrets in their teeth. Back at the car, the lot was empty again. Every single vehicle gone except mine, and my dashboard clock when I started the engine, you guessed it, 5:32 p.m., glowing steady like it was mocking me, like time itself had bent around that number and refused to let me out. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept hearing footsteps in the hallway of my apartment, soft drags like boots on carpet. And when I lit the lighter the old man at the gas station had given me, the sound stopped. The air cleared for a moment, but when the flame died, I swear I heard that laugh again, right against my ear, like it was leaning in close to remind me that the trail wasn't done with me yet. I made it through the night, but not in any way that felt like real sleep. It was more like my body shut down in bursts. 10 minutes here, 15 there. Then jerking awake with that laugh still bouncing in my skull. My apartment didn't feel safe. The walls too thin. The windows rattling against a wind that wasn't supposed to be there. And every time I closed my eyes, I saw the scratches on the rock, antlers or branches or veins spreading wider, glowing faint like embers. And when morning finally came, I thought I'd feel relief. But instead I felt hollow, like something had been taken out of me and replaced with static. Tried to be normal. That day, Saturday, October the 16th, I went to grab coffee down the street, tried to scroll through my phone, but the screen wouldn't hold steady. Notifications blinked, then vanished. My calendar showed every single day, locked to October 14th. And even when I typed messages to friends, they sent us blank gray bubbles. No words, just silence. And I knew if I called someone, I'd only hear that laugh. I didn't test it, I just knew. By the afternoon, I couldn't take it anymore. I kept pacing the apartment like a caged dog, every corner too sharp, every reflection in the windows slightly delayed, and my eyes kept drifting back to my back, still leaning in the hallway where I'd dropped it the night before. Mud dried on the straps, headlamp half hanging out, and it felt like it was waiting, not just sitting, but waiting, calling me back to the trail. And the worst part is, I gave in. I told myself I'd go back one more time, figure it out, put an end to it, even though every sane thought screamed, no, don't, stay away. I still grabbed the pack and headed north like I was on autopilot. This time I reached the Blood Mountain Trailhead around 2:11 p.m. The lot full again. Hikers loading up. Kids running circles. It should have grounded me, but it didn't. Because the second I stepped out of the car, the air was wrong. Not cold, not warm, just heavy, like breathing through damp cloth. And the trees leaned in closer than they had before. Branches knotted so tight above the trail, it felt like stepping into a tunnel. And once I crossed that line, the noise from the lot was gone. Not faded, not distant. Gone, swallowed whole like I'd sealed the door behind me. The climb up felt different too. The incline sharper, the roots deeper. The ground soft and spongy like it had been raining, even though the dirt lot was bone dry. And as I walked, I realized the trail markers were missing. Every blaze stripped clean, bark scarred like something had clawed them away. And still I kept going. No map, no signs. Just this pull in my chest dragging me up around the halfway point. I stopped because the silence wasn't silence anymore. It was whispering, low, layered, voices overlapping. Too many to count, none clear enough to understand. And when I turned my head left, I swear I saw shapes between the trees. Not people, taller, thinner, their limbs bending wrong, like shadows stretched on strings. And when I blinked, they were gone. But the whispers weren't. They'd gotten louder, almost urgent, like they were pushing me forward, begging or warning. I couldn't tell when I reached the overlook. The sky had dimmed in a way that didn't make sense. It wasn't sunset yet, but the clouds above looked heavy, black, roiling like smoke. And the view I'd seen before, the ridges and valleys, was gone, replaced by a vast, dark expanse. Like the land had been burned out, nothing left but ash. And in the middle of the rock where hikers usually sit, there was something new. A circle of stones stacked high, taller than my waist. Each one carved with those same jagged lines, antlers or veins or roots. And inside the circle, the ground wasn't stone. It wasn't dirt. It was soft, pulsing, like skin stretched too thin, veins glowing underneath. I don't know why, but I stepped closer, my boots crunching against grit that sounded too much like bone. And when I leaned over the circle, the skin shifted, like something underneath had felt me there, pressing back against the thin membrane. And for the first time since this all started, I heard words, not laughter, not whispers, but words, clear and sharp, spoken in a voice that sounded almost like mine. It said, "You came back," and then it said, "Now you'll stay." Stumbled back hard, hit the ground on my palms, scrambled to my feet and turned to run. But the trail was gone. No marker, no opening, just walls of trees where the path should have been. Trunks tight and endless, and the only direction left was back toward that circle. the skin still shifting like it was breathing, and I swear I could see a face pressing against it from the inside, a mouth opening wide, wider than a mouth should. And the laugh started again, but this time it wasn't distant. It was right there, vibrating through the stones, through the ground, through my chest, like it was inside me. I must have blacked out, because the next thing I remember I was standing in the parking lot again, knees weak, back heavy on my shoulders, sun bright like nothing had happened, hikers milling around, someone asking if I was okay, and when I checked the dashboard clock in my car, you know what it said, 5:32 p.m., glowing, steady, unshaken, and my phone buzzed in my pocket for the first time in days. But when I pulled it out, the screen wasn't showing messages or missed calls. It was showing my own reflection, not like a camera app, just raw reflection. And behind me in that glassy surface, standing in the back seat of my car, was a shape with antlers spreading wide, branches splitting into veins, smiling that pale, impossible smile. I didn't boast about any of this right away. I kept it bottled, 'cause saying it out loud made it real, and I wasn't ready for that. But after that third trip back, after the circle and the skin and the voice, I couldn't shake the feeling that I hadn't come back alone, like something followed me out, not just riding my shoulders, but crawling into the cracks of everything I touched. And it showed first in my apartment, little shifts that anyone else would chalk up to stress or sleep deprivation. But I knew better. It was Sunday, October 17th, when I noticed the first change. I woke up late, or at least I thought it was late. Blinds open wide enough that sunlight should have been spilling in. But the room was gray, dim, like the light had been filtered through smoke, and the clock on my nightstand, a cheap plastic thing that had worked fine for years, was stuck 5:32 a.m., even though my phone said 5:32 p.m. Same numbers, same trap, and when I shook it, the second hand didn't even twitch. It was like time and my place had folded in on itself, looping the same moment over and over until I could taste it. I tried to leave, I swear I did. I grabbed my keys, headed for the door, but when I opened it, the hallway outside wasn't right. The carpet was soaked, squishing under my boots like moss, the lights overhead flickering in rhythm with my own heartbeat, and the smell hit me. Not mildew, not rot, but earth, wet and heavy like fresh dug soil. The same smell that clung to my back after the trail, and the whispers were there too, faint behind every door, rising and falling like breath. And I swear I saw the outlines of antlers pushing against the wallpaper, stretching it, tearing it slow. I slammed the door shut and leaned against it, chest heaving. And when I turned back toward my apartment, everything had shifted. The walls weren't the pale beige I'd always hated. They were dark, streaked with black lines crawling upward like roots, and the floor wasn't carpet anymore. It was dirt, loose and damp. And when I dropped my keys, they didn't clatter. They sank, vanishing into the soil without a sound. And I stood there frozen, whispering to myself that this wasn't happening, that I was dreaming. But then the laugh came again, low and wet, rising from the sink, drain in my kitchen, like water gurgling back, and I couldn't breathe. I lit the lighter, the one the old man at the gas station had given me, and for a second the room snapped back, walls beige, floor carpeted, keys resting on the surface like they'd never fallen. And I thought, maybe I'd broken it. Maybe fire really could hold it off. But then the flame sputtered and died, and before I could flick it again, the walls rippled, like something massive pressed against them from the other side, pushing inward, testing the thinness of the barrier. And that's when I realized it wasn't just the trail that was cursed, it was me. I'd carried it back like a disease or a parasite, and now my apartment was the trailhead. I didn't stay. I couldn't. I packed a duffel with whatever I could grab in 5 minutes. Flat, clothes, flashlight, the lighter, a pocket knife I hadn't touched in years, and I drove, no plan, just drove, north first, then west, gas station to gas station, not stopping long enough for the walls of anywhere to close in. But everywhere I went, the same things happened. The clocks freezing, the whispers in the vents, reflections showing shapes with antlers that weren't mine, smiling just at the edge of focus. And always, always, that number glowing, steady 532, carved into my life like those grooves in the stone. By the time I hit Chattanooga, I was barely holding it together, running on caffeine and panic, and I thought maybe a hotel would be safer than another night in the car. Maybe surrounded by people I'd be anchored back to reality. So I checked into some roadside place with flickering neon, front desk girl, giving me the kind of look you give someone who hasn't showered in 2 days. And I didn't care. I just wanted a door that locked. 4 walls between me and the trail. But the second I stepped inside that room, I knew it was pointless. Because carved into the headboard of the bed, deep and jagged, were the same markings, antlers, branches, veins, like they'd been waiting for me. I didn't sleep that night either. I sat in the chair by the window, lighter flicked on and off until my thumb blistered, watching shadows stretch wrong across the carpet, watching the mirror over the sink ripple like water. And just after what should have been midnight, the phone on the nightstand rang. Not my cell, the landline, the one that wasn't even plugged in. And when I picked it up, shaking, I heard my own voice on the other end, whispering, "You came back, now you'll stay." I dropped the phone and bolted, left my duffel, left my keys, left everything, stumbled into the parking lot barefoot and shaking. And when I looked at the sky, it wasn't night, it wasn't day. It was that same bruised purple haze from the trail, and every shadow around me stretched tall and antlered, and I swear I could hear the trees breathing even though there weren't any trees, not in that lot, just the sound, wet and patient, waiting for me to stop running. I don't even know how I ended up back at my car, but I did. And when I started it, the dashboard clock blinked alive, glowing steady. 5:32 p.m. and my phone buzzed. Again, screen lit up. But it wasn't a text or a call. It was a map. GPS arrow pointing me straight back to Blood Mountain. And no matter how many times I swiped it away, it came back, pulsing red, waiting. By Monday, October 18th, I was wrecked. My body shaking from exhaustion, my eyes burning. But no matter how far I drove, the pull never let go. The GPS on my phone kept rerouting to Blood Mountain, sometimes even when the screen was off, lighting itself up in my pocket with that little red arrow pointing east. And the worst part was that the roads themselves started to change, like the country was bending to match the map. Signs pointing to towns I knew weren't supposed to be there. Exits with names carved instead of printed. Names that looked too much like the jagged antler lines. And I kept telling myself, just keep driving. You'll hit something real eventually. But the gas needle kept dropping, and every station I pulled into looked wrong. Too quiet, too still. Attendants standing behind counters with glassy eyes, sliding lighters toward me like it was the only thing worth selling. Not even speaking unless it was to say, "You came from the trail, didn't you?" By noon, I hit a stretch of highway that should have taken me west, clear out of Georgia. But the farther I drove, the thicker the trees grew, branches knitting overhead until the light dimmed. And when I looked in the rearview mirror, the asphalt behind me was gone, replaced by dirt, a narrow track lined with roots and stone. And my stomach dropped because I knew it. I'd seen it. It was the Blood Mountain Trailhead. Only this time I wasn't walking. I was driving straight into it. No choice. No way to turn back. I pulled over hard, tires skidding against gravel that shouldn't have been there. Slammed the car into park and just sat there, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping me tethered. And I told myself, don't move, don't give it what it wants, just wait it out. And for a minute, it was silent, dead silent. No birds, no wind, nothing, until the laugh came again. Not faint, not distant, but bursting through the car speakers, even though the stereo was off, layered and broken, wet and choking, and every vent poured it out too, like the whole car was a throat laughing at me, shaking the frame until I thought the glass would crack. Bolted. I don't even remember unbuckling. I just remember the door slamming behind me and my boots hitting dirt. Not pavement, not gravel. Dirt. Soft and damp. And when I looked up, the The road was gone. No sign of the car. No sign of asphalt. Just the trail climbing upward. Roots twisting into steps. Trees bending low like antlers. And the light was that same bruised purple haze, stuck between day and night. And my phone buzzed once in my pocket, screen glowing with the time, 5:32 p.m., locked and steady. I don't know how long I walked, maybe minutes, maybe hours, but the trail wasn't the same anymore. It twisted in ways it hadn't before, looping back on itself, dropping me at the overlook again and again, even though I never turned. And each time I arrived, the circle of stones was bigger, taller, the carvings deeper, and the skin inside it stretched thinner, pulsing faster, the face beneath pressing harder against it, like it was almost ready to break through. And every time I saw it, I ran, bolted into the trees. But no matter how far I went, the overlook was waiting again. Stone circle taller, skin thinner, laugh louder. I tried burning it, I swear I did. I flicked the lighter and tossed it into the circle, flame catching the edge of the carvings, sparking for a second. But instead of burning it, just spread, light crawling over the stones like veins of fire. And the laugh twisted high, shrieking now, a sound that rattled the bones in my chest, and the skin split, not wide, not all the way, but just enough for a hand to push through, pale and slick, fingers too long, nails black and curved, grasping at the air like it was learning how to move. And I didn't wait. I ran again, deeper, lungs on fire, legs shaking. But this time, when I broke through the trees, I didn't find the overlook. I found myself back at the parking lot. Only it wasn't the same lot. The cars were there, but they weren't right. Each one rusted, broken, doors hanging open, glass shattered like they'd been abandoned for decades, moss crawling up the frames, tires rotted into the earth. And when I stumbled toward mine, praying it was real, I saw the inside wasn't empty, not anymore. Something sat in the back seat, tall and thin, head bent too far, antlers brushing the ceiling, and when it turned toward me, its face was mine, my eyes, my mouth, smiling too wide, and it raised one long finger to its lips, like it was telling me to be quiet, like it was telling me the story wasn't mine anymore. I don't remember getting back on the road, but somehow I did. Headlights cutting through night that didn't feel like night. Dashboard clock glowing 5:32, steady and bright. And every time I looked in the rearview mirror, the back seat was full, sometimes with the shape, sometimes with antlers, sometimes with nothing but that pale smile floating in the dark. And I knew then there was no road that would carry me away, no highway or back street or interstate, because the trail wasn't in Georgia anymore. It was in me, and it was unfolding every direction I went. By Tuesday, October 19th, I wasn't myself anymore. I was still moving, still thinking in pieces. But my body wasn't right. It didn't feel like mine. Like every joint had been loosened and retightened the wrong way. Every step too soft, like my bones were hollow. And my reflection proved it. I stopped checking mirrors, but sometimes you catch yourself anyway. In a storefront window or the side of a car. And each time my reflection lagged behind. Eyes too wide, smile twitching at the corners even when my face was still. And sometimes, antlers flickered out of my head like shadows that shouldn't be there. I tried hiding in crowds that morning. I thought, maybe if I surrounded myself with enough noise, it would drown out the whispers. So I drove into downtown Atlanta, parked near 5 Points and just started walking, head down, hood up, pushing through people. But the whispers didn't fade. They got louder, weaving between the voices of strangers, stitching themselves into every word. So when a man at a food cart said, ketchup or mustard, all I heard was you, came back. When a woman on her phone laughed, it came out, wet and broken, joking. And I realized no one was looking at me. Not really, they were walking past. Like I wasn't even there. Like I'd slipped out of their world entirely. And the only faces that looked up, the only eyes that met mine, were pale and wrong. Too wide, too black. Watching me with recognition, like they knew what I'd brought back from the trail. By noon, I couldn't take it anymore. I ducked into a public restroom just to breathe, just to hide. But the second the door shut, the light flickered, and the air went heavy, and the mirror above the sink rippled like water again. My reflection pressing its hand against the glass. Antlers curling tall, mouth moving in time with mine, but saying something else. Whispering, stay. Whispering, dig. Whispering, bleed. And I staggered back, hit the stall door. And when I looked down at my hands, they weren't steady anymore. The nails black at the tips, sharp like claws. Veins raised and dark like roots crawling up my arms, pulsing with each beat of my heart. I panicked. I lit the lighter, flame flaring bright, and for a second, the bathroom snapped back to normal. My reflection plain, nails dull, veins hidden. But the flame sputtered fast, and I realized that the lighter was burning down, fuel nearly gone, my only anchor slipping, and when it died, the mirror didn't show me anymore. It showed the overlook, the circle of stones, the skin split wider, face pressing closer, mouth open too far. And I heard my own voice again, but stretched, doubled, coming from both sides of the glass. It said, "You're not leaving. You're not you anymore." And then the glass cracked, spiderweb lines spreading from my reflection's mouth like it was biting its way out. I ran, burst back into the street, but it wasn't Atlanta anymore. Not really. The buildings were still there, but twisted, windows gaping like mouths, shadows spilling antlers across the sidewalks, and every person I passed was wrong. Faces blurred, bodies stretched tall and thin, laughter wet and choking, and no one touched me. They just turned their heads as I passed, whispering in unison, 532, 532, 532, like a clock ticking down to something I didn't want to see. I don't remember driving back north, but I must have, because by late afternoon, I was parked at the trailhead again. The real one, or maybe the only one, and the lot was empty. No cars, no people, just mine sitting there like it had never moved. And when I checked the mirror, the thing in the back seat wasn't pretending anymore. It wasn't smiling. It wasn't me. It was taller, antlers splitting the roof, body bent but growing, skin pale and veined, eyes too dark. And when I looked at my own hands gripping the wheel, I realized they matched. Black nails, dark veins, roots crawling higher, and my chest filled with that laugh bubbling up from my own throat now, wet and broken, not forced on me anymore, but mine completely. I left the car, boots sinking into dirt that was too soft, too warm, like flesh, and the trail stretched out ahead, longer than it had ever been, twisting up into clouds that roiled purple and black. And I knew then I wasn't walking into the woods. I was walking into something else, something older, something hungry. And every step I took, the trees bent lower, antlers brushing my shoulders, whispering, stay, whispering, feed, whispering, become. And I think I'm already becoming. I think I've been becoming since the first laugh echoed back at me. And there's no way out now. Not really. Not unless I let it finish. By Wednesday, October 20th, I wasn't even pretending anymore. My body wasn't mine. Not the way it used to be. And trying to hold on to that idea only made it worse. Like clenching your fist around water. The harder I tried, the faster it slipped out. I kept telling myself I was still me, still human, but then I'd catch my reflection in a puddle on the trail, and the face staring back wasn't mine. Not completely. The skin pale and pulled too tight, the eyes too black, too deep, like holes punched straight through into the dark behind everything. And when I lifted my hand, the reflection didn't follow. It just smiled. I thought maybe I'd fight it with fire. I'd bought a pack of lighters, filled my pockets, flicked them one by one whenever the whispers pressed too close. But the flames didn't last. They sputtered quick like the air itself was starving them, choking them out. And each time the light died, I felt something crawl higher under my skin, veins thickening, splitting like roots, nails curving sharp, and my teeth, God, my teeth. I woke up that morning with blood on my pillow, not mine, I don't think. And when I checked the mirror, my canines were longer, sharper, cutting into my lip when I closed my mouth, and it didn't hurt. It felt right, too right, like my mouth was learning how to smile the way the thing smiles. The laugh isn't outside anymore. It isn't in the trees or the vents or the foam. It's in me, stitched into my chest, bubbling up when I breathe, slipping out between words when I try to talk. And sometimes I hear it layered, my voice and its voice together, echoing in a rhythm that matches the clock. 5:32, steady, endless, like my body is the clock now, ticking toward whatever comes next. I wandered that day, not just on the trail, but off it, through the trees, deeper than I'd ever gone, and the woods bent to let me through, branches parting like they recognized me, roots shifting to guide my steps. And I realized then that the trail was never about paths or markers or overlooks. The trail is alive. The trail is a body, and I am inside it now. And it is inside me, growing, feeding, spreading. I've found a clearing I'd never seen before, wide and circular, ringed with stones carved deep, not stacked but sunken, half buried like teeth. And in the center was another membrane, thinner than the one at the overlook, stretched tight, pulsing, and this time I didn't run. I didn't light the flame. I stepped closer and the whispers rose into words, hundreds of voices all speaking together. And they said dig, they said open, they said bleed. And I fell to my knees with my hands in the soil, pulling at roots that twisted like veins, tearing them free until my nails cracked and black blood spilled from the dirt, hot and wet and smelling like iron. When I looked down, my hands weren't hands anymore. The fingers too long, joints bent wrong, nails curved black and sharp. And I dug faster, laughing, my laugh and its laugh, until the soil split open and the skin beneath it bulged, a face pressing up. Not human, not anything I knew. Eyes wide and empty, mouth stretched into an endless smile. And when it opened, the sound that came out wasn't laughter. It was my name, my real name, whispered soft like a secret. And I knew then I wasn't fighting it. I never had been. I'd been answering its call since the first night. I don't even know how long I knelt there. Hours, maybe. Time doesn't move right anymore. But when I finally stumbled back to the lot again, covered in blood and dirt, there were hikers, 2 of them, a young couple, smiling like normal, packs slung, stepping toward the trail, and I tried to warn them. I opened my mouth to say, don't go. But what came out wasn't words. It was laughter, wet and broken, and their smiles faltered, their steps slowed, and they looked at me like I wasn't a man, like I wasn't even something they should see. And when I raised my hand to reach for them, the shadows of antlers stretched long across the gravel, and they bolted, ran for their car, didn't even look back. tires screaming as they peeled out, and I just stood there, laughing, because I knew they couldn't leave. Not really. Not if the trail wanted them. Not if I wanted them. My skin doesn't fit right anymore. My shoulders ache like something's trying to push through. And at night, when I close my eyes, I feel the weight of antlers pressing against the inside of my skull, splitting bone, stretching skin, and I don't fight it, not anymore, because maybe that's what I'm supposed to be. Maybe that's what the trail has been carving into me since the first laugh echoed back, and the thought doesn't scare me now. It feels like coming home. By Thursday, October 21st, the word "I" doesn't mean what it used to. I say it, but it feels hollow, like a mask I keep putting on, like the sound of it is borrowed from someone who isn't here anymore. And maybe that's true. Maybe I left myself behind on the rock at the overlook, scratched into the stone like all the others. Maybe what's walking now is just what the trail pulled out through my skin, wearing me until it doesn't need to anymore. The changes don't hurt now, not like before. The teeth sharper, the nails blacker, the veins rising like roots. All of it feels natural, like I've been fighting against the shape I was always meant to have. And now it's finally settling, finally fitting, and the weight pressing against my skull has broken through, antlers splitting high, heavy but right, curling like branches, scraping ceilings, catching on door frames when I try to go inside. But the truth is, I don't want to be inside anymore. I don't belong in walls. I belong in the trees, in the soil, in the stones. I belong in the trail. The laugh isn't separate. Now, it's not something I hear. It's something I am. It comes when I breathe, when I blink, when I open my mouth. It pours out steady like air, wet and broken, layered with voices that are mine and not mine. And I know now it isn't mocking, it isn't cruel. It's joy. It's the sound of the trail feeding, growing, spreading through me and around me. And the more I let it out, the more the world bends. The more time folds, the more 532 shines steady, carved into every clock, etched into every surface. The moment stretched endless, so the trail can keep pulling through. I don't hide anymore. I walk the streets with the hood down, and people see me, but not really. They glance, flinch, turn away, their eyes sliding past like they can't hold the shape of me. And the ones who do look too long, the ones who notice the antlers and the smile, they don't stay. They vanish, slipping between seconds. Their shadows left pressed into the pavement, burned like stains. And I know where they've gone. I know the trail has taken them, folded them into the stones, carved them into the overlook. Because when I go back, I see their faces in the skin, pressing up, mouths open, eyes wide, whispering in rhythm, with me, with us, whispering, dig, whispering, bleed, whispering, stay. The circle of stones is taller now, I don't know how high. Higher than trees, higher than mountains, rising each time I returned, the carvings glowing red like veins, pulsing with the laugh, and the skin at the center is so thin I can see through it, see the dark below, the endless dark, shapes moving. Inside it, antlers wider, smiles brighter, hundreds waiting, thousands maybe, pressing against the membrane until it quivers. And I know the only thing holding it closed is me, or what's left of me. The trail hasn't finished yet. It's waiting for me to open it all the way, to tear the skin wide, to let them through. And sometimes I want to. Sometimes I kneel at the edge, nails sharp enough to slice, hands trembling with hunger. And I almost do it, almost rip it open. But then I hear them, not the voices inside, not the whispers, but real people, hikers still coming, still curious, still walking the same steps I did. And I know the trail is patient. I know it wants them too. It wants more faces, more bodies, more names to carve. So I wait. I laugh. I let them hear it in the trees, echoing, choking, soft and broken, drawing them deeper, watching their eyes widen when they see the circle, when they see the skin, when they see me standing there smiling with antlers dripping shadows down the stone. And I don't have to chase them. I don't have to touch them. The trail does the rest, bending time, looping paths, bringing them back again and again until they can't leave, until they start to change, until they start to laugh. I think about posting this, about sending it out into the world like a warning. But that's a lie. I know it's not a warning. It's an invitation. Every word I write, every word I whisper, it spreads the trail, it grows it. And if you're reading this now, then you've already heard it. You've already felt the pull, that prickle on your neck, that whisper in your vent, that laugh in your throat that isn't yours. And maybe you'll ignore it. Maybe you'll think you're safe. But sooner or later you'll look at the clock and it'll be 5:32 and you'll know it's waiting. By Friday, October 22nd, I wasn't alone anymore. Not in the way you think. Not just because of the hikers the trail keeps folding into itself, but because the laugh isn't trapped here now. It's spilling outward, riding my breath, riding my words, slipping through every line I type, every sound I let loose. And I realized too late that telling you all of this hasn't been about warning, hasn't been about sharing. It's been about feeding, about opening, about letting the trail grow teeth in places it's never touched before. I tested it without meaning to. I left a voicemail on my brother's phone. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. Just a low, wet laugh in the back of my throat. Short, broken, pressed through the receiver. And when he called me back the next morning, his voice wasn't right. It was layered, doubled, whispering my name under every word. And he said he kept waking up at 5:32, staring at the corner of his room, swearing something pale and tall was standing there. And then the line went quiet, just breathing, just static. And then laughter. Not mine, not his. Something bigger. And I knew he wasn't mine anymore. He was the trail's now. And it's not just him. I hear it everywhere. In the city streets, in the gas stations, in the parks. Strangers humming a rhythm that doesn't belong to any song. Tapping 5:32 into their phones, into tables, into walls. And when I pass them on the sidewalk, they glance up too fast, eyes black and wet for a second before sliding away. And I know they've heard it too. They've read it. They've carried it inside themselves. And it's spreading. It's growing. It's not just a place anymore. It's a sickness of sound and story. And I'm the one carrying it. The trailhead doesn't need the mountain anymore. Doesn't need the stone circle or the overlook. It's opening in other places now. Anywhere someone listens too long. Anywhere someone lets the laugh slip into them. Anywhere someone reads these words and feels that twitch in their jaw, that pulse in their chest, that itch in their nails, like they're sharpening. And when they close their eyes, they'll see it. They'll see the circle rising in their own woods, their own yard, their own street. Stones pushing up like teeth, soil splitting like skin. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Once you've heard it, you can't unhear it. And by then it's already too late. I don't think there's a me left to stop it. Not really. Not after the antlers split. Not after the face in the soil whispered my name. Not after I laughed with it instead of against it. And maybe there never was. Maybe this was always the point. Maybe the trail doesn't end at Blood Mountain. Maybe Blood Mountain was just the door, just the first mouth. And now there are thousands, tens of thousands, growing wherever this story travels, spreading through screens and speakers, through whispers and dreams, until every trail is the same trail, until every path leads to the circle, until every clock freezes at 5:32 and the membrane tears wide. I keep trying to tell myself I regret it, that I should have stopped, should have burned it out before it reached this far. But the truth is, when I hear that laugh rolling across the world now, layered and endless, in voices young and old, near and far, I don't feel guilt. I feel joy. I feel home. I feel the trail widening, stretching, hungry and alive. And I laugh with it, louder, sharper, until my antlers scrape the clouds, until the sky splits, until there's no difference between me and it, between here and there, between one and many. So if you're still reading this, if you've made it this far, it's already in you. I can feel it. I can hear it hitching in your breath, rattling in your chest. And soon, You'll laugh too. You'll laugh when you shouldn't, when the room is quiet, when the dark is heavy. You'll laugh wet and broken and not know why. And when you glance at the clock and see 5:32, you'll understand. You'll know the trail has found you, and you'll start walking, even if you've never been near the mountain. Even if you don't know the woods, you'll start walking, and the stones will rise to meet you, and the circle will be waiting. By Saturday, October 23rd, there wasn't a world left the way you remember it. Not really. Not in the way you think it should be. Because the trail isn't in one place anymore. It isn't a path in the woods or a circle of stone. It's in every step, every street, every room. And the circle rises wherever eyes look too long, wherever ears catch the laugh, and you can't escape it, because it isn't behind you. It isn't ahead of you. It is you. I walked into town that morning, or maybe the trail walked me. Hard to tell now. And the streets bent wide like the switchbacks, storefronts sagging like stone teeth, windows pulsing like veins, and every person was laughing, all of them in rhythm, wet and broken, layered and endless, some standing still, some walking in circles, some digging bare-handed into the asphalt until their fingers split and the black blood rose, and above it all, the sky wasn't sky anymore. It was the membrane stretched wide, red and quivering, faces pressing through, antlers clawing for space. And when it tore open, the laugh didn't echo. It was everything. It filled every crack, every lung, every mouth. And I laughed too, louder than I ever had, because I wasn't separate anymore. I was them. They were me. We were the trail opening wide. The clocks froze everywhere. Not just mine, not just in my room, but everywhere. Glowing digital faces and ticking hands all stopped at 5:32, and the second stretched on forever. An endless hinge where the world tilted into something older, something deeper. And in that hinge, I saw everything at once. Every circle rising, every stone carved, every membrane tearing, every person bending, every antler splitting through skulls, every smile stretching too far, and all of it fed into the same body, the same trail, the same endless mouth opening across the skin of the earth. And I felt myself dissolve in it, my name gone, my face gone, my body not even a memory, just roots and veins feeding into something vast. And it didn't hurt. It wasn't loss. It was relief. It was home. It was everything I'd been walking toward since that first night at the Overlook, when the laugh echoed back wet and broken, and I finally understood it hadn't been mocking. It hadn't been warning. It had been welcoming me, calling me, pulling me back where I belonged. There's no separation anymore, no border between me and it, between the mountain and the street, between story and reader. It's all the same now. One long trail folding through every word, every thought. And if you've made it this far, then you've already felt it tightening in your chest, already seen the corner of your eye twitch toward shadows too tall, already heard the laugh bubble up when the room goes quiet. And that means you're not outside of it. You're inside. You've been walking all along and you don't even need to move your feet because the circle is already under you. The stones already rising, the membrane already quivering. And when you finally look at the clock and see it frozen, when you finally hear your own laugh, slip wet and broken through your teeth, don't fight it. Don't waste yourself on fire and light. Just step forward. Let the antlers split. Let the smile stretch. Let the trail take you whole. Because there's no leaving now, no stopping, no end. Just the laugh rolling forever. Just the seconds stretched wide. Just the circle waiting open. Welcome home.